A wall of water. Let's take a step back and really look at the violence of this event. It is easy to look at a chart of salinity levels and deuterium ratios and forget what that actually feels like. Imagine you are a farmer living in what is now the coast of Turkey about 7,500 years ago. Your life is simple. You have a mud brick house. You have a field of wheat. You fish in the giant freshwater lake that your grandfather told you stretches on forever. One day you hear a sound. It starts as a low rumble like thunder that never stops. The ground vibrates. The birds stop singing. Miles away at the Bosphorus Strait, the natural rock dam has failed. The pressure of the Mediterranean Sea finally became too much. The rock crumbled and the ocean came roaring through. Geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman calculated the force of this breach. They estimated that 10 cubic miles of water poured through the gap every day. To put that in perspective, that is 200 times the flow of Niagara Falls. It would have been a terrifying sight. A jet of salt water bursting into the freshwater basin with such force that it carved a canyon through the rock. You can still see that canyon today on sonar scans. It is a scar on the face of the earth. Back at your village, the water starts to rise. But it is not like a normal tide. It doesn't go back out. It creeps up the beach. Then it is in your garden. Then it is in your house. Calculations suggest the water rose 6 inches a day. That might not sound like much, but think about it. Every day the ocean claims another huge strip of land. A mile of land is swallowed every few days, depending on how flat the coast is. You pack your family, you run inland. But the water keeps coming. You have to keep moving. You lose your home, your tools, your ancestors' graves. Everything is gone. This panic, this forced migration is what the DNA confirms. The plankton study from the Woods Hole team shows a rapid response. In nature, things usually adapt slowly. Evolution takes thousands of years. But here the change was instantaneous in geological terms. The freshwater species didn't have time to evolve. They just died. They were replaced by the invaders. This mirrors what happened to the people. The people of the Black Sea coast were the lost population. No historian recorded them because history hadn't been invented yet. Writing was thousands of years away, but their legacy is everywhere. Linguists and anthropologists have noticed something strange about this time period. Suddenly, agriculture explodes into Europe. Farming techniques that started in the Near East suddenly appear in Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. Why? The Black Sea deluge theory suggests these were the refugees. They were the people pushed out by the water. They took their seeds and their knowledge and they ran west and north. So in a way, modern European civilization was kick-started by this disaster. If the dam hadn't broken, those farmers might have stayed by the lake for another 1,000 years. The flood forced them to expand. But let's get back to the science, because the DNA reveals something else that is super important. The researchers reconstructed past changes in temperature too. They found that this wasn't just about water level, it was about climate. The Black Sea is highly sensitive. It is like a giant thermometer for the planet. The study showed that during the late glacial period, the sea was isolated. But as the planet warmed up, everything went chaotic. The Holocene climatic optimum, that is science speak for a warm, wet period, caused the salinity to increase gradually after the initial burst. Then about 5,200 years ago, things changed again. The climate got dry. This is called the subboreal stage. The DNA shows an increase in marine fungi. Now, fungi are the decomposers. They eat dead stuff. An increase in fungi usually means there was a lot of death to feed on. Could this be another signal of environmental collapse? Then, around 2,500 years ago, the climate got cool and wet again. This is the subatlantic stage. The plankton shifted again. Diatoms and golden algae took over. It is like a war zone down there. One species conquers the territory, holds it for 1,000 years, and then gets wiped out by the next climate shift. And humans are just caught in the middle. The most crazy part is how the DNA matches the physical evidence on the seafloor. Explorer Robert Ballard, the guy who found the Titanic, went looking in the Black Sea a few years ago. He found an ancient shoreline perfectly preserved nearly 500 feet underwater. He found stones that looked like building materials. He found shells of freshwater snails on the beach that is now deep underwater. Carbon dating of those shells matches the timeline of the DNA study. 7,500 years ago. It is a perfect match. The stones, the shells, and now the genetic code of the plankton all scream the same thing. This place was alive, and then it drowned. But here is the twist. The DNA study also looked at the last century. Marco Coulin found that the most drastic changes in plankton occurred over the last 100 years. Why? Humans. Pollution, fertilizer runoff, and climate change are doing what the flood did, but faster. We are messing with the chemistry of the Black Sea again. The ancient DNA shows us how sensitive this body of water is. It crashed before and it can crash again. But let's focus on the ancient mystery. It created a layer of hydrogen sulfide at the bottom. This is a toxic chemical. It sucks all the oxygen out of the water. This is why the Black Sea is so special. It is the world's largest anoxic basin. Nothing can survive below a certain depth. No worms, no bacteria that eat wood. This means that the lost population might still be down there. If a village was swallowed by the flood, the wooden beams of the houses would still be there. The woven mats, the carts, even the bodies. In a normal ocean, a wooden ship is eaten by shipworms in a few decades. In the Black Sea, a wooden ship lasts for millennia. The DNA tells us when it happened. It tells us how it happened. But it also points a giant arrow at the deep water and says, "Look here." We are not just talking about a flood, we are talking about a preserved moment in time, a Pompeii underwater. The DNA was the key to unlocking the timeline. It proved that the transition was real and it was drastic. It validated the stories of the flood. Now we have to ask ourselves, if the water came in that fast, what did it cover up? There are theories that this region was the hub of a massive trade network. They had salt, they had grain, they had copper. When the water hit, it cut those trade lines. It sent shockwaves through the ancient world. It is possible that the story of the Tower of Babel, where people scattered and started speaking different languages, is actually a memory of this diaspora. People fleeing the Black Sea, separating into different tribes, losing touch with each other. The DNA evidence from the plankton is the foundation. It proves the environmental mechanism. It proves that the Great Flood wasn't just rain, it was a geological event, a dam breaking, a sea expanding, and the people who lived there became the ghosts of history.